Hi, Mr. Ellory. My name is Anne. I'm the Vice President of a non-profit association called Inculq, and it's a group of ladies who happen to be fond of the kind of books that you write, so thrillers, whodunits, and noir novels in general. We are based in Mons. It's a town that's quite famous, I think, in England for its history, especially linked to the First World War. And as you know, we organize every year a festival devoted to the noir genre. So it's called Nuit, Blanche du Noir, quite logically. And you were invited to the fourth edition this year in 2020. Unfortunately, the worldwide health situation has decided otherwise. And as I know about your sensibility to that problem because I read your beautiful poem called Everything We Took for Granted. And so my first question is going to be quite personal. So how are you, RG, and how's your family? And how's the cultural world in England and Britain, Great Britain, surviving the health situation?
The first thing I want to say is how unfortunate it is that we're not going to be able to make it to Mons. We've not been in Belgium for a long time and I was really looking forward to coming back. So I just want to say hello to everyone, to the staff, to the readers, to everyone who attends the festival. I hope that it's a huge success and it's a real shame that we can't be there, but current circumstances don't permit it. So we just do the best we can. So in replacement of my physical presence, I've been sent a number of questions which I'm going to answer for you as best I can. And the first one is, how am I and how is the family? We're doing fine. I mean, we've been in confinement for 8 months. It looks like it's going to go on for a considerable time longer, but we're making the best of it. My wife and I have been married for an awful long time. We get along great, so that's not really been an issue. Our son lives elsewhere, he's married, he has his own family. We've all stayed safe and well, as I hope all of you have. It has its own challenges, as you know. It has its own difficulties to overcome, but we do the best we can. Fortunately, I'm used to working at home. I have been working from home for an awful long time. The thing that I really miss is not being able to tour, not being able to go and visit friends, not being able to play live concerts with the band. But I know we'll see the other side of this before too long, and I'm looking forward to the explosion of initiative and creativity that people have been working towards that will be there when we arrive.
You studied art. You are a photographer, as we can see on your Instagram account. You're also a musician. You play the guitar, you play the trumpet, you have a rock band. So how come you chose writing as your favorite mode of communication, of expression? And actually, did you choose it?
Interesting question, because I don't know necessarily that you choose a vocation. A vocation kind of chooses you. I'm very interested in music, very interested in film, very interested in photography. But writing has sort of dominated my creative life, for want of a better expression. It was something I decided to embark upon in 1987 and then spent many years writing books and not finding a publisher. In fact, it was the 24th book I wrote that finally got published, so I have 30 or 40 complete manuscripts unpublished in the loft somewhere, which we will or will not do something with at some point in the future. But interestingly enough, the writing has opened the door for me as far as doing some photography is concerned. Now writing film, written 3 films recently, one of which is in casting, another one is in pre-production. And obviously then there's the songwriting and the band and the fact that we've gone on tour and made some albums. We've just completed writing material for the 3rd album. But it's the writing that has allowed me to express myself in those other ways. Writing a screenplay is still writing lyrics and writing music is still writing, and even photography, technically, is writing with light. That's what the word means. So I don't think I've ever been anything other than a writer. It's just that writing novels has enabled me to tell the stories I want to tell big stories, but also it's opened the door for me in other creative avenues that I think otherwise would have been closed.
Most of your novels, at least those translated into French, are set in America. Why this attraction for the United States, for the New World? Is it because it's newer, so it has some youthfulness in it that makes its inhabitants more naive, and so it's easier for you to reveal the shortcomings of society?
I mean, this really goes all the way back to my childhood and a passion I had for the golden age of Hollywood. Watching films with the likes of James Stewart and James Cagney and Humphrey Bogart. There's an aspect of the United States really that is very appealing from the viewpoint that it's sort of like 50 countries. You could spend time in Texas and then spend time in Boston, and from a social and cultural point of view, they are extraordinarily different, even though they speak the same language. The other aspect of the United States that appeals to me is the fact that cops are armed. You have the Ku Klux Klan, you have racial situations, you have the death penalty, you have the CIA, the FBI, you have Hollywood, you have the Kennedy dynasty, you have all the sort of things that we're observing now with the political situation running up to the new election in the United States. And it's tremendously inspiring and tremendously interesting from a writer's point of view. The Vietnam War I've written about so many different aspects of American society and culture, and it's sort of inexhaustible. There's not a great deal of comparison between society and culture in the United Kingdom and America. We are nations divided by a common language, as has been said before. But the United Kingdom, for me, has never really appealed as a source of inspiration for novels. I've always gravitated sort of naturally to the United States, and I think it's more to do with the vast scope that's presented there more than anything else.
Your latest novel, 3 Bullets, is a uchrony in which you imagine that Mr. Kennedy was not killed in November in Dallas, and that he came back to the White House with Jackie and went on with his personal madness. Why did you choose that form? Because it's quite unusual. It's not your usual style, I would say. So can you tell us about that?
It really came about as a result of a conversation I had with my editor some time ago. And we were discussing the books that I'd written, A Quiet Vendetta, Sur le Silence. We talked about Les Anonymes, Les Assassins. And he said, you know, you've written about the FBI, you've written about the CIA, about Nixon, about Hoover, you've written about the Ku Klux Klan, about the death penalty, you've written about the Kennedys and Vietnam War, but is there any particular significant political or historical event that you haven't written about that you would like to? And I said, well, obviously when you ask that question, you sort of gravitate automatically to November 22nd, 1963 and the assassination of John F. Kennedy. And I said, but it's been done so many times before, not always well. There's a tremendous amount of unanswered questions still surrounding the events of that day. There's been a tremendous amount of films, tremendous amount of documentaries, and no end of non-fiction books on the subject. I said, I don't think I could necessarily approach it in a way that hasn't already been done. And he said, well, have a think about it and see if you can think of a way that it hasn't been done before. And obviously there is King's book relating to the assassination of Kennedy, but obviously that's a book about time travel. It's not a book I've read, but it has that supernatural element that is unique to Stephen King to it. So obviously I didn't want to approach a situation from that perspective. That's not the type of book that I wrote. But on the train back from London after this meeting with my editor, I did start to think about what would have happened had Kennedy been elected for a second term. Because he was approaching the end of his first 4-year term, would he have been selected by the Democratic Party as their nominee for the second term? There were things being made sort of visible in the press. There were rumour lines. They didn't have the internet, so those rumours didn't spread as quickly as rumours spread these days. But still the fact remained that there were certain questions about Kennedy's character, his moral stance, his own personal behaviour that were interesting to me. And I also knew that he was a man who suffered greatly with physical stresses and strains and illnesses. And I thought, well, what would have happened had he not been assassinated and had he gone on to run a second 4-year term? And that really was the seed of the book. And it was that approach that I wanted to take then, which allowed me to explore events that never happened, but also give commentary on what I really felt were some aspects of Kennedy's character and Kennedy's administration that weren't perhaps so positive and weren't in keeping with the way that he's been portrayed historically. My question being, had he gone on, had he done a second term, would have his vices and his idiosyncrasies and his proclivities been exposed, and would he have joined the ranks of shamed public figures, shamed historical public figures? And I think probably the answer to that question is yes. So I wanted to explore that, and that's why I wrote the book that way.
I was told that you had just finished writing a novel set in Canada. Is that true?
Yes, it is true. How long you will have to wait for that to be translated into French, I don't know. The book that's going to be with you in 2021 is this one, Carnival of Shadows. In French, it's Carnaval des Ombres. That will be 2021. The book that's being published in the UK in February of 2021 is a book called Proof of Life, which is complete. This is a book very, very different, because I've never done this before, that's set outside of the US entirely. London, Istanbul, Berlin, the Netherlands and Paris in the 1970s. And it's quite different as a theme, and quite different obviously locationally speaking from anything I've done before. But I've just proofread it, and it goes to print very, very soon, and I'm very excited about it because it was thoroughly enjoyable to write, and many, many months after having written it, it was actually thoroughly enjoyable to read. As far as the Canadian book is concerned, yes, that's complete. That's what I've spent the last several weeks doing. That's this one. That obviously won't be published in the UK until 2022. So when that will be translated into French, when that will be available in the French language, I don't know. Probably 2023, 2024. I'm not sure. The decisions made as to which books to publish, what sequence they would be published in, are made obviously by my wonderful French publisher Sonatine Edition, and it's not something I influence and not something I ask to influence, because they're doing an extremely good job and I don't want to distract them with my irritating questions and demands. So it's going to arrive when it arrives, but yes, the Canadian book is finished and it's a book I'm very, very happy with.
The fifth edition of the Nuit, Blanche, Noir will take place in November 2021. Can we count on you then? Will you be with us? We so look forward to meeting you then. Thank you very much.
I really hope so. We had 12 or 13 French and European tours organised this year, every single one of which has been cancelled. So we actually haven't left the United Kingdom this year for book tours. We haven't played any gigs. We've done nothing. I've been stuck at home, but I have written 2 books, published another 2, and written 3 films, all of which will be coming in due course. I hope that 2021 is a complete full calendar of touring right across Europe. I hope to spend a considerable amount of time in France and go to all the festivals I missed in 2020, and I also really do hope that we can be there in Mons. I want to thank you for your support. I want to thank you for your encouragement and your kindness. As I said, I really hope the festival is a huge success, and I hope that I will have the opportunity to meet with all of you and talk about yet another book, this time next year. Take care, stay safe, much love to all of you, best wishes.